Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. So we headed to a civil war. Now this is something that's been talked about for a long time, really. You could go back the last several years and see a lot of whispers and rumors and theories on the fact that we could be seeing at least another civil war in this country. But here lately, it's been talked about a lot more. And so I want to get into that, not just, well, is it going to happen? Because no one really knows, but what it would actually look like. Because I think a lot of people don't quite think about that, of what a civil war would actually look like. And then what are we going to do about it? So let's get this started. A lot of people, when they think of civil war here in America, they think of the American Civil War, which really wasn't a civil war. It was a war between the states, or really a war between two countries. They have this idea that civil wars are fought by two opposing armies standing in Napoleonic style, fighting back and forth with each other, shooting volleys of shots at each other, because, well, that's the only thing that the average American has an example of what a civil war is. They've seen Civil War movies and documentaries and learned about it in school a little. But that's not a good example of what civil wars usually look like, especially in this modern era that we live in. In fact, right now, there's at least a couple of dozen, acknowledged civil wars on this planet in various countries, in Africa or in Southeast Asia, in the Middle East. This happens on a somewhat frequent basis for a lot of these countries, and you probably remember hearing about some in the news occasionally, some unknown place in the continent of Africa that you've never heard of before, or you couldn't point out on a map to save your life, and you know nothing about them, but they're involved in another civil war. Big deal. The things that are happening in a lot of those countries, or at least the way that the civil wars kind of plan out, I think, in my opinion, are probably more closely look like what we would see here in America. And I say that because that's what we are seeing here in America. We're seeing a lot of sectarian violence. I mean, that is what it is. It's not just random little pockets of violence. It's not just, one little fringe group fighting one little fringe group. We are seeing sectarian violence. It's not being called that. No one wants it to be called that. But that is what it is when you're seeing violence being done against one group of people because of what they believe from another group of people because of what they believe. I mean, that's the simplest terms of what sectarian violence is. And really, a civil war is nothing more than systemic sectarian violence. That's all it is. It's just a whole lot more of it. And so, when will we know, or will we even know, when we kind of cross that threshold of it being just random sectarian violence and to the point that it's more widespread? In a lot of these countries, in fact, I can remember over the past several years, I've known friends that, or just people that I've known that live in a country that we hear about there being sectarian violence or civil wars. And I can remember one case in particular. I contacted him and I'm like, hey, I heard on the news, civil war in the country that you're in. Are you okay? Is everything all right? And he's like, oh, yeah. Most of that stuff is happening on this other province, or it's happening way on the other side of town. And where I'm at, it's pretty cool. We have to be kind of on our toes. But life's going on mostly normal right now. That's your common modern civil war. And when you think about it, that's what it sounds like here in America, where most of you watching this will say, things aren't great where I'm at. It's a little stressful. Maybe they have certain, regulations and restrictions imposed upon me that I don't like. But as far as it being civil war, no, it's not like that. And then there may be some others that are saying, man, there's so much violence all the time, and looting, and buildings being burned, and people being shot. There's violence all over the place where I live. That's sectarian violence, and more of that can lead to a civil war. This isn't just a fringe thing that we're hearing about. Here's an article here by a guy named Ray Dalio. He's a multi-billionaire. And he is a financial advisor, hedge fund kind of guy. And he's saying that he believes that there's a growing increase of chance of a civil war breaking out in the United States over the next 5 to 10 years. I kind of think it's probably coming a little sooner than that. And this has been talked about quite a bit, I've noticed online in the last few days when this article came out. But I want to show you another article that maybe you haven't seen. This one was on, I believe, NBC. And it's talking about, again, civil war and the chances of that. And it's the article is saying that how the things that usually lead up to a civil war in a nation, they're kind of happening right now. And they're happening more frequently. And basically, it's saying that of all the checklists that you would have for a civil war, America is pretty rapidly checking those boxes off to get to a civil war. The interesting thing about this article is the guy that wrote it is a senior analyst for the Rand Corporation. And if you don't know what the Rand Corporation is, they're kind of like the godfather of the military-industrial complex. I mean, they pretty much say that on their own website. Does that mean that their claim that we could be, inching towards a civil war is more accurate? Maybe not, but there's certainly people that's in the know, being some type of, national security and technology and energy think tank group for, the U.S. government and the military and things like that. I would think that they would kind of know what they're talking about, and it could possibly be that they're setting the stage for people to accept it a little bit more. I mean, that's what they do a lot of times in movies and media is tell a narrative, kind of like the whole little smallpox stuff that we're starting to hear about. It's softening the blow so that when it does happen, people are like, well, it's no surprise. I've been hearing about it in the news for weeks or months now. Folks, the stuff that's happening right now, a lot of it's happening. We talk about it all the time. Is it the type of things that could lead us to a civil war? I believe so. I've never, I'm 43 years old, and I have never seen this nation and the people in this nation more divided. I can remember 10, 20 years ago that the left and the right and the Republicans and Democrats, they may not have liked each other, and the individual voters may not have agreed with each other's policies, but we all kind of got along for the most part, and we would agree to disagree on some places. That's not what's happening anymore. Families are splitting apart. Married couples are divorcing. People are not speaking to each other anymore. Violence is happening. People are becoming hateful. And it's almost like two different cults fighting each other. And that's exactly what they want. They want that divide and conquer. You can read about it going back into things like Communist Manifesto and other writings like that, that one of the best ways to conquer a nation is to divide its nation. And that's exactly what's happening today. We're seeing that on just about every area. And it's not just that people are very divided and that they're very polarized in their opinions, that they are willing to take it to beyond an argument into the physical violent territories. On top of that, we have people that are frustrated and people that are stressed and people that are not sure when their next meal might come from or if they're going to be able to buy groceries. And that's becoming and will become a more and more prevalent problem. People not sure about a job or a place to live. People in fear because of all the hype for this health crisis. People that believe that their gender identity or their ability to, remove a life from their body is just so important that they're willing to riot for it. The racial divide is just getting bigger and bigger. It's looking like a big soup pot, of problems, a big old soup pot of problems. And someone has turned the heat on high. And you know what happens to that? Eventually, if you do nothing, it's going to boil over. It's going to just start spewing everywhere, and it's going to be a big mess. And while I'm not predicting it, and I don't want to sound like I'm, instilling fear in people, I will say that the way things are kind of working out, it does look like it could go down that road. Now, does that fit within the whole Great Reset and New World Order, agenda? Yeah, I think it does. I think it fits with all of that, including end times, because it creates more chaos and instability. And how to fix chaos and instability? Well, some big powerful entity comes in and says, we have a solution to fix all these problems. You give us your rights, we'll give you all kinds of safety and security. So it would fit with any of those predictions and any of those agendas that are happening. Now, what do you and I do to protect ourselves from that? Well, I mean, I know it's like, a broken record around here, but probably the best thing to do is to not live in an area where you would think it's more likely to see violent outbreaks due to potential civil war violence. I mean, I know you can't absolutely predict that, but obvious answer is big cities, areas that are very polarized, especially if you are of the conservative, religious, Christian slant, and you're living in a very liberal, ungodly type of environment. It's probably not going to be safe for you if a civil war was to break out. The other things is just normal prepping. You just do your normal prepping, just like we're doing for everything else that's happening right now. You focus your mind, you get yourself battle ready, mental preparation, become a mental warrior. This is very important because the problems that we're seeing happen right now, while they may not be a physical problem for everyone, they eventually can become a physical problem. And so a psychological war that's going on right now could eventually become a physical one for just about everybody. And then lastly, work on your actual physical training. I don't think I have to go over that too much. Obviously, you want to have the tools that you need to defend yourself. You want to know how to use those tools. And I'm not talking about putting holes in a paper. Anybody can put holes in a paper. I can take someone that has no clue how to point a gun, and I can teach him how to put holes in the center of the paper fairly accurately. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about learning how to actually defend yourself. This is important, and there are ways to do it even if you have a small or no budget. So don't think that you can't do anything. And I know I said that was the last one, but truly the last one is getting your heart in order, your spiritual walk, because above all, this is spiritual warfare. I know it's another broken record. I say it almost every video, but it's true. We're watching a country that most of us grew up in and most of us loved and was proud of what we were as a nation fall apart. We're watching it fall apart right before our eyes. And I don't believe that if we get just the right person elected next time, it'll all fix it all. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I could be wrong. And if I am wrong, I will certainly admit it. But I don't think just electing the right person or a different guy is going to fix it all. I think that we are headed down this path pretty securely. And will it end up in a civil war is yet to be seen, but it's certainly going to end up in chaos because that's where we're at right now. And we're headed down that path even further. So, folks, sectarian violence, absolutely. We're already there. We already have it. Go to some places in this country if you don't believe me, and you'll see sectarian violence. You'll see it almost every day. Look at the numbers. Look at this violent assault rates. Look at rapes. Look at murders. Look at burglaries. Look at vandalism in a lot of these big cities, most of these big cities. And they've gone up double and triple digits over the last year or two. There's already sectarian violence, okay? And it's not all just thuggery crime. A lot of it is people that have a political agenda doing violence against the people that they don't like their political agenda. So I think that's something that we should be aware of, and I think it's something that we should plan for and prepare and get ourselves ready because it's building. And there's so much tension right now in this country. It is just like, it's like a pressure cooker. Forget a soup pot. It's a pressure cooker. And it is building pressure and it's building pressure. And at some point, that pressure cooker cannot contain that any longer. Okay? All of you homesteaders out there, you know what I'm talking about. At some point, it cannot contain that anymore. And what happens? You have a big bomb. It's just boom, explosion. And that's what's going to happen here. That's what it is. That's the tension that's going on right now in America, and it's everywhere. So get your houses in order. I know I say it all the time, but what else could I say? Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. It does give that appearance that this, random and, sectarian violence could eventually become a more stable civil war. All right, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.